Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. If you're new to this channel, I primarily cover Paizo tabletop role-playing games like Pathfinder and Starfinder. But today we're going to be doing something a little different. We'll be talking about some stuff you can use in Pathfinder, true, but also Dungeons & Dragons, GURPS, Savage Worlds, and any other tabletop role-playing game with miniatures. I'm going to be talking about how to paint those miniatures. One thing I haven't really covered on this channel is miniatures and miniature painting, and a lot of players like to paint miniatures to represent their characters or their animal companions, and a lot of GMs enjoy painting monsters for their players to go up against. Now, to be clear, you do not need to have miniatures to play D&D or Pathfinder or any other tabletop role-playing game. Not even close. I've used dice as miniatures, coins, Lego minifigs, plastic toys you can buy from the dollar store. You do not need to get into miniature painting to play any tabletop role-playing game. But for those of you out there who would like to dip their hand into miniature painting, it can be hard. There's kind of a barrier to entry. Now, I am not a great mini painter. There are others far, far better than me, but I at least can help you get started with the basics, so that's what I'm going to do today. Oh, a quick disclaimer, I do not have a video camera, so all of this footage was shot on my iPhone, so sorry if the video quality isn't great. Also, I'm no videographer, I just have to work with what I have, I am sorry. So to start off, you'll need a few things. Some very small brushes. I also like having some bent paper clips or needles on hand to make very tiny dots or lines. Also, a container of water that you don't mind throwing away, some napkins, or I use paper towels, some hobby paint, plus something to paint on. I have this paint tray, but a paper plate works just as well. You may also need some primer spray paint, preferably something matte, and I highly recommend a clear matte spray paint, though that isn't strictly speaking necessary. Oh, and of course you'll need a miniature. For the miniature brushes, you'll need some really small tiny ones. Your friendly local game store will probably have a few, but they're usually pretty high-end and pricey. If you're just starting off and want to try out the hobby, I found these brushes which work just fine at Walmart for under $5. They probably won't last long, but it'll be long enough to paint a few minis to see if it's a hobby you want to invest in. For your water container, which most people call a water pot, just grab something you don't mind throwing away or not using. You will get paint all over it, and it'll never completely wash away, so you don't want a cup or a bowl you plan on drinking out of later. Paper Dixie cups work fine here, or if you have an old cup you don't mind losing, that works too. A friend gave me this water pot years ago for Christmas, but you can use anything, really. The hobby paint is going to be the most expensive. In general, you want acrylic paint. You can go to your local craft store and pick up some craft acrylic paint, but that stuff is usually too thick and you may want to water it down, and getting it just the right consistency can be hard. If you have the money, I recommend a set of hobby paint specifically formulated for miniatures. These ones by Army Painter are both high quality and somewhat cheap. Your friendly local gaming store will also likely have some paints from Citadel. These are good too, but they can be pretty pricey, so beware. In addition to a normal set of paint, you'll likely want to grab some sort of silver as well for metal and shields and armor. Metallic silver paint has some stuff in it that makes it look shiny and really great. You can also get metallic gold or bronze or other metallic colors, and those are great too, but to start off with, you probably only need silver. Most miniatures you'll find these days are plastic, though there still are some pewter ones on the market. They range in quality from pretty mushy to having fantastic detail. I've had the best luck with WizKids miniatures like these ones or Reaper Mini, specifically their Black Bones line. I should mention, if you want to try painting only once, you can grab one of these packs that has a miniature, a brush, and all the paint you'll need to paint that one miniature. I got the Baldur's Gate Minsk one for Christmas a while back, and I haven't gotten around to painting it, but you can see how it has everything you need. If the miniature you have is metal, or some of the older plastic ones, you'll need to spray paint it with primer, or the hobby paint won't stick. Some of the newer ones may not need primer, or they might. Regardless, if you prime it, even if it doesn't need primer, you won't hurt anything, so I err on the side of caution and prime everything. I like a gray primer because it lets me see the detail of the miniature easier, but if you prefer some other primer color, it doesn't make a huge difference. Lighter primers like white will show a little bit through the paint to give you a brighter looking mini, while darker primers like black will give you a darker looking mini, but it's not a huge detail if you're just starting out. So I'm going to start off with this miniature. It's actually a gift for a friend who did me a favor recently. He's into RPGs but does not like mini painting. The first thing we want to do is, if you want to modify your mini at all, do that first. In my case, my friend's character uses a short sword, not a long sword, so I'm going to take some clippers and chop down this sword to size. I don't recommend modding minis too much to start off with, but once you get comfortable with it, feel free to go wild. My friend helped me modify this lizard man to look like the Starfinder soldier Obadiah. The second thing is to prime your mini if it needs priming. This one probably doesn't need it, but I'll do it anyway. Now, it's winter at the time of me recording this, so I can't prime outside. So I set down some newspaper in my spare bathroom, turned on the vent, that's very important, and spray painted the mini, then cracked the door and let it dry for a while. Next, you just get to work painting. Now, there are a few tips to painting. Start with the bottommost layer and work outward. That way you don't accidentally paint over something you've already painted while trying to paint in the nooks and crannies. Also, my friend's character is Vudrani, or Fantasy Persian, so I'm going to mix some brown paint with a lighter skin tone color I have to get a more terracotta skin color. I think it's okay to use that term. If not, let me know in the comments below. I keep trying to keep up on political correctness, but it changes so fast I don't often catch all the terms. Couple of painting tips here. Never use all white or all black. They just don't look good, and you can't shade what is all black, and we'll get to shading in a second. Instead, see if you can get some off-white and dark gray colors. I really like mummy robes from Army Painter for a good off-white. Another tip is you may need to do a couple of coats, especially for some colors like yellow, just a heads up. For colors, try to choose complementary colors, things that look good together. Basically, anything from opposite ends of the color wheel usually look pretty good together. Red goes with green, blue goes with orange or yellow, stuff like that. Black, don't use pure black, but dark gray goes with almost everything, and off-white goes with blue pretty well. Basically, look at any pop culture character design and see what colors work well together. If you just go crazy with colors, you can end up with something that can be kind of an eyesore, so I would put a little thought into the color choices. Oh, and try not to have too many colors close together in proximity and on the color wheel. Like, I tend to use a lot of browns, and it can be hard to tell the difference between a light brown and a dark brown. So if you want to highlight the details of, like, this belt or whatever, make sure that the color isn't too similar to the tunic it is near. Now, when you're done with the base coloring and everything is dry, you'll probably want to do some shading. Now, you don't have to do shading if you don't want to, but it'll make everything pop. There's a couple of different ways to do shading. One is called Slapchop, which involves a whole different way of painting. I am not good at Slapchop, so I won't do it here. I'll link to a video that shows how to do it below. I'll just show you the way that I learned. You want to grab your black, yes, pure black, and use just a drop of it, and then water it down a whole heck of a lot. Then just paint over everything that needs to be shaded, and the black will seep into the recesses and make it look shaded. Now, I recommend not doing this on skin tones or lighter areas like off-whites unless you want your character to look dirty, which is an option. If you have a swamp witch that lives in a swamp, then by all means, dirty her up. For skin tones, use the color you were using for the skin tone, water it down, and just add a bit of black or maybe dark brown depending on the skin tone of your character. I recommend against shading whites, but if you have to, use light grays. Now, if you don't want to do the watering down technique, you can buy what are called washes, or sometimes they're called inks. Technically, washes and inks are different, but they both will work. These are paints that are pre-mixed and pre-watered down, so you don't have to worry about getting the consistency just right. But, I mean, it is something else to buy. If you want to go this route, I recommend buying a wash for a skin tone and one that is black and can be used on clothing and gear. You can also use washes and inks to add fun little tinges of color to something. My friend's character is a poisoner, so I'm adding a tinge of green to his sword to show that he's poisoned it. I can do this with the green wash I have. Now, once the guy is shaded, you can try to add highlights if you want. Now, I am terrible at highlights, and I usually don't do them, but if you want to, here's what you do. Grab white, yes, pure white, with a larger brush, and then try to get most of the paint off by rubbing it on your napkin or towel or whatever. Then, gently dust over parts of the character and the white will lighten all the raised bumps. Now, you don't want to use pure white on the darker parts of the miniature and instead use something like a medium gray. The important thing is to get almost all of the paint off. You can see here I thought I got most of the white off, but it was still too much of the brush and it just washed out everything. No problem though, I can just repaint it silver and try again. The final step is to take your Mini back outside, or to my ventilated bathroom in my case, and spray paint it with a clear coat. This will lock the paint behind a layer of clear spray paint and prevent the paint from rubbing off. Here's a Mini I didn't spray paint with a clear coat, and see how much the paint rubbed off? You may need to glue some things together, like I needed to glue this Mini to his base here. Some may not need gluing, and some may need a lot of gluing. Just use super glue and you'll be fine. And that's it, we're done. The Mini is painted. Now there are other advanced techniques to be sure. Some people add highlights right away, there are ways of blending colors and doing crazy insane shading. This video is just the bare bones basics to get you ready for the most basic of painting techniques. There are a million videos on YouTube about how to do something more complicated if you've mastered these steps and want to go up a notch. But for basic techniques, this will get you started. Lastly, I want to share something someone shared with me a long time ago. See, look at my guy here. He's okay, but up close he doesn't look that great, and that's fine. Unless you're going in for a model painting competition, most people won't care that there are minor imperfections. My friend said that you should think of the 3-foot rule. How good does the Mini look at 3 feet away? Because that's how most players will see your Mini most of the time. You should always be striving to improve, true, but if you let perfectionism get in the way of ever finishing a piece, you'll never get better. Just do the best you can, learn from your mistakes, and try to do something better next time. Like I said, I am not good at miniature painting, but that doesn't stop me from trying. But what do you think? Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? If so, drop a comment below, and be sure to like and subscribe. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!